When ideas become personified, they can be dangerous to our knowledge base. In fact, personality cults are not just often very dangerous. They can turn on the society that produces them because they want to bring a halt to the knowledge base that builds awareness of their insufficiency. They become authoritarian to remove information. When the knowledge base is being enhanced by popular people in academics, they're considered great teachers. Often, they are unsung heroes of our society. I grew up seeing such people. The people who attacked me and disabled me were after our schools and our knowledge base. That's one of the reasons why I became very sympathetic to Mackenzie Shirillo, because I recognized the symptoms of poison in her testimony. I've done my level best to bring this to the attention of the Strongsville authorities. When Trumpy Toon mongered up Greta Thunberg on the cover of Time, there was a studied and callow attempt to make her an image of selflessness being projected into the media syndicate. She resembled, in her long hair and androgyny, Jimmy Carrey, in the same sense that Obama could be said to have been an upload of "I thought this was what you wanted" regarding JFK. It is a strategic replacement theory. I've done my level best not to grudge McCartney and Mr. McCartney for his seance of inflicting helplessness on people in the name of saving the ecosphere by subjecting Greta Thunberg to a review of things that were beyond her control. The people in eugenic planning, Ingrid Bergman, Hollywood, uploaded her sensibilities expertly. Unless she knew they were going to poison me in the mouth, unless she knew about COVID-19, I'd just as soon talk about the adults who were behind the operation. Obviously, Trump knows his business. I was thoroughly beholden to Greta for taking a public stand that I had long advocated in a state of injury and suppression. It brought tears of joy to my eyes. Not surprisingly, Schwarzenegger, Wattenmaker, the psychiatrists of Peter Gabriel were on hand to mal-depict me as preying on someone who was young, as they have long done from their coterie at Epstein Island. Toya Wilcox ravaging the Persian carpets of King Crimson's soothsay dens of Swami Nostra. Yapped until an Australian attorney found a comedian to bark about Greta's virginity and having turned 18. That's the kind of mind Toya and Yoko Ono have. There's not much I can do about that. But what we're here to talk about is what double fantasy really means. They want us to live in a split-screen world. where we don't really understand the macabre things they've pulled. For example, Cliff Robertson went above the World Trade buildings in a private plane while Diamond DeGaulle held a stiletto outside. And people ignore this imagery, even though it clearly designates that AIDS was an attack before COVID was too. It clearly designates that the fundamentalist tripartite of Iran-Contra, Oliver North and Colin Powell with Flippy Toon, the Israeli Zeeks of Zionist genocide, and some Hamas dude, Sin War, I mean, there's a name, put up Gaza to change the subject, almost to humanize genocide. And here they come trotting out with Moon Unit Zappa. My robo-gladiator isn't finished taunting you, queer bait. And they loaded themselves this story of a pretzel about John Lennon so they could get away with the whole thing forever. And this is what double fantasy means. It means a double world. You see, let's talk about North Korea for a minute. If I was to write a poem about North Korea, I would not be hateful. They were workers and toilers, and they suffered a great indignation under World War II pressures. I would note the disqualifications of so many people who've carped about them mindlessly. I wouldn't avoid the hard questions. But one of the hardest questions of all is how are we going to learn to get along so we don't destroy ourselves? And that means requiring ourselves to answer the questions they ask about us. Now, the double vision is to say, well, it's all been put in place by Paul McCartney. The double vision is sort of a former acid head control board under the Swami Nostra bowing and scraping of Brian Eno and Beaton Enonomics and Enocide, whatever you want to call it. It's an enossified world. The enossification from temptresses making fun of the little boys who poachers on high competing for gender roles at the university put together, and so on. Since that's all in place, why don't we have an arc and make peace? And Bobby Kennedy's on hand with the smartest of all the apparatus to tell us we don't need to tell that part of the story. And Gaza was just a pampered old place anyway. Would he at least admit that The Hague found probable cause of Israeli genocide? So what happens if we find probable cause that Putin, Flippy Toon, Biden, Barack Obama, Schwarzenegger, and the Beatles conspired in a series of genocides that they're humanizing by changing the subject with Gaza? Behold the promised clock. What you end up with is academics. Oh, academics are so fearful that they have these militias in our schools now, where Phi Theta Kappa scholar can't even eat the food in safety. And that's their answer. Pilgrims, they're the new form of pilgrims. Not answering the questions is not going to do much good. Bobby Kennedy has made one contribution in that subject by going after the BioWeird labs in Fauci. There was a fellow named Reinhard Giesler in the Soviet Union who was asking very direct questions about this sort of thing. These are reasonable issues of diplomacy and skill and professionalism. When the Ukraine pretended that Russia had fired into Poland, Biden's administration was commended by Putin for their professionalism by getting to the bottom of it. No, the Ukraine tried to trick us, is what happened. Professionalism can be worked out through Interpol. There's no reason to just bypass these questions. Here at the end of all things. Now, if Sinwar is carping about the most beautiful Kyogen on my computer, I suspect he secretly wants peep. Because there's nothing that unusual or abnormal about people getting together, and maybe exhibitionism is a little bit questioned, but what's culture doesn't have, where lovemaking isn't normal. They say we have a new system of Eurasia. Everybody's going to get married once. They're going to pick their virgin and stick with it. One virgin, one Allah, one man, one vote. Is that why they're blowing up the world? Why don't you propose this legislation? See if they can get the votes. If they'd explained the whole thing to me as a child, my sensibilities were pretty obedient. The way they went about it was by constructing mandatory sexual slavery and a pornographic genocide. Tisk, tisk, tisk. And that's moral superiority. If you say so. Sounds like a bunch of goofy fundamentalists getting together with Oliver North and goofing